Hey guys, welcome back to our series of two-part interviews with global business leaders on the Chamber Guide. The United Arab Emirates is New Zealand's 10th biggest global trade partner. Being a regional and international destination for business and investors, the UAE banks on its flexible legislative environment and advanced infrastructure to create ideal opportunities for companies from New Zealand to expand their activities in the region. New Zealand, too, is keen to enhance their presence and consolidate trade and economic ties between the two countries. When it comes to bilateral trade in the face of current global uncertainties, what are the challenges faced by businesses from New Zealand as they establish their presence in the UAE? And what is the UAE Golden Visa? To tell us more, I have with us Ms. Vanessa Abernethy, the chairman of New Zealand Business Council UAE. Vanessa, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Pleased to be here.
Before we begin, could you give us a little background information about yourself? You have a very interesting past, I see, with over 25 years of legal experience in Dubai. Now, you came to Dubai in 2005. You were even once in the New Zealand Stock Exchange, weren't you?
Yes, absolutely. I've been, as you say, a long time in the UAE. I started my life I'm a lawyer, corporate lawyer by trade. And so my first job out of university was with the New Zealand Stock Exchange, which actually did determine, I guess, the trajectory for the rest of my career because my legal experience has been with financial institutions. I moved here in 2005 and have worked at partner level at a couple of the major global law firms here in Dubai. And then transitioned into in-house roles. And then more recently, I'm now the founder of a business called Oryx, which is in the consulting space. So 18 years here. It's a long time. My children have been born here. I think when I arrived in Dubai, I expected I would be here for 3 to 5 years, but it's a phenomenal place to live and work. It's now home for me. My children are at school, and I don't think I'll be leaving before retirement.
Do you travel back to New Zealand often?
Yes, absolutely. At least once a year. We're there every Christmas and get connected with friends and family. New Zealand is a big travellers. I also see friends and family in other parts of the world regularly. But, make sure I'm back at least once a year.
Great. Now, the New Zealand Business Council UAE was formed in early 2019 in a move to strengthen UAE-New Zealand relations and build new bridges of bilateral cooperation in new economic sectors and areas. Now, I have seen your tagline, which states, proudly Kiwi in nature, nurturing business through connections. Mm-hmm. Tell us about this interesting tagline. And as a business council, how would you define what your mission is in the UAE?
Well, we actually worked quite hard for a number of years to get the Business Council up and running. And it was a project that the Embassy and the Consul General in Dubai and Abu Dhabi were also interested in seeing us achieve. So we see ourselves as a platform for business people, both in New Zealand and in the UAE, to connect, which is where the tagline comes from, with the using connections, I guess, to nurture businesses. What I think most people in the world who are in the business environment will say is not only do you want to do business with people who you know are good at what they do, but typically it's easier to do business with people where you speak the same language, you have the same outlook on life, and you enjoy their company. So obviously, as a business council, we're nurturing that aspect of networking. So our aim is to bring New Zealand business people who might be New Zealand citizens. We have about 3,500 of those, I believe, in the UAE. So we bring them together for regular events. We do roughly 3 events a month. Those events range from social networking events where people can exchange business cards and just have some casual conversation, or they might be more formal learning sessions where we might invite guest speakers, panel members. Those can, we might invite someone from government. We might invite some of the New Zealand government people as well. And so our members get access to those people as speakers and access to learning and obviously also to networking in that context. Now, we don't only focus on New Zealand citizens that are based in the UAE doing business, because obviously they want to connect with other Kiwis, but they want to connect with businesses that are run by other nationalities. We have a big expat population in the UAE, so they want to connect with those as well. So we're not exclusively for New Zealand business people. We allow other nationalities to join as members. Those nationalities would need to show some connection to New Zealand. Either they have business in New Zealand, they would like to have business in New Zealand, they are doing business with New Zealand-owned businesses here in the UAE. So anything really that demonstrates that they have a legitimate reason for wanting to make meaningful connections with our members would qualify someone from whatever nationality to become a member. On the flip side, we also have members, we have an international member category, which enables people that are based down in New Zealand, so New Zealand business people, to connect and become members to the extent they might be looking to do business with people in the UAE, or they might be looking themselves to expand their business into the UAE. We have a wealth of knowledge in our membership of people that have done that and been down that road and already established their businesses here. So when a new person from New Zealand is put into the membership, they're able to connect and gain knowledge from all that first-hand experience that other members may have. So we very much see our role as connecting, putting people in touch, helping. But people have specific questions, we may be able to put them in touch directly with New Zealand Trade and Enterprise. We might know someone that's in the same line of work that we can put them in touch with that might enhance their business. So for us, it's all about connections.
Wonderful. Now, during the 8th session of the Joint Economic Committee between New Zealand and the UAE in March last year, an agreement was made to work together in 7 priority economic sectors over the next 2 years, or maybe now over the next year. The 7 sectors, and I quote from a report by the UAE Ministry of Economy, the first one is development of trade and mutual investments, advanced technology, innovative industries, agriculture and food security, renewable power, logistics, entrepreneurship, and tourism. These 7 sectors have been identified to boost economic cooperation between UAE and New Zealand. Now, my question is this. With these initiatives laid out by the Joint Economic Committee, what role will the New Zealand Business Council UAE play to assist in the strengthening of bilateral cooperation in each of these sectors?
It comes down again to the connections. We obviously have sectors in New Zealand that we're particularly strong in, and many of those are already operating in the UAE, and those that aren't, we can help get into the UAE simply by giving them know-how and knowledge about who it is here that they might want to connect with and how they might want to establish their businesses here. So, for example, agriculture. We know everybody, I guess, is aware of the New Zealand agricultural industry, our dairy, our lamb, our beef, the primary industry in New Zealand we've always been very strong at, and that's exported all over the world. So we already have major companies up here like Fonterra that are exporting dairy into this part of the world. We also have New Zealand companies in the meat space that are bringing meat products into the UAE and the wider Gulf region. So by having members that are based here that are in some of the cases in the agri space, we're able to share knowledge if there are smaller players down in New Zealand that are also looking to get their product up here. Likewise, there could be there's people, we have dairy here, the dairy industry here, and the regulators here are always interested in improving food security. We're in fairly good shape in the UAE in that regard, but New Zealand often has innovative ideas when it comes to that space as well. And there's always room. The UAE is very entrepreneurial, so there's always room for anybody who's got a business that's bringing something here that's going to add value for that there to be connections that we could make that would help that business come in here. The other space you mentioned, tourism is the other one that obviously New Zealand, I know New Zealand is actively focusing on now that the borders are open since the pandemic. New Zealand is actively focusing on attracting tourists from this part of the world down to New Zealand. New Zealand's always been quite active on the tourism space because of its clean green image and its adventure tourism and its adventure sport. So I know definitely there's a focus on trying to get more people from this part of the world down to New Zealand. Dubai is always going to attract people from all over the world, including New Zealanders, up, whether it's for the shopping, for Expo, for whatever events going on at the time. And a lot of Kiwis indeed stop in the UAE they fly Emirates and stop in the UAE on their way through to Europe. So I think Dubai is a destination that's already on the map, and I'm not sure we need to do more other than speaking to our friends and family in New Zealand about what a great place it is to visit in order to inspire that. But basically, we stand ready to speak to any businesses that are looking to establish here or that might want some help getting more traction here or building business here. We can generally put them in touch with people that are able to help.
Wonderful. Now, just want to cover this. What are the challenges being faced by the UAE? I know things are looking good now, but there is talk of upcoming recession. There's global uncertainty as well. And of course, both countries are working towards a specific goal. Now, what are the challenges being faced by the UAE and New Zealand as both economies work together toward achieving the objective of the Paris Agreement as well as the Glasgow Climate Pact?
So that's all about, obviously the whole world is facing issues and concerns at the moment in relation to what's going to happen with climate change. And the UAE, obviously being historically based in a desert with extremely high temperatures in summer, has had to work extra hard on that. But I think they're making good inroads. There's been a lot of announcements made from the UAE that they're wanting to become Dubai's wanting to become one of the greenest cities in the world over the next couple of decades. I know the UAE is putting a lot of resources into sustainability. I was out in the desert not that long ago, and there's a huge solar park. Obviously, we're a perfect location in Dubai to capture solar energy. We have sunshine most of the year. So I know that the UAE is working very hard on the solar space in terms of renewable energy. I know we're getting a larger rainfall. I think some of that might be as a result of cloud seeding, but also we are noticing, those of us who have lived here a while are noticing the desert getting greener. Now, obviously, New Zealand has always been passionate about the environment. I remember as a young New Zealand kid, it was drummed into us recycling, picking up your rubbish from the beach and other people's rubbish from the beach if you go to the beach to keep New Zealand clean and green. That was something that we've had for decades. So that's something that's in the makeup and the psyche of most New Zealand citizens. But the UAE has twigged on pretty fast and is making leaps and strides, I think, into improving what it does for sustainability as well.
Right, that's good to know. Now, the UAE being the Arab world's second biggest economy and also New Zealand's 10th biggest global trade partner has emerged stronger from the pandemic-induced economic slowdown and by far has continued to maintain a steady trade momentum. Tell us what it was like for you and your members back in 2020 when news of the pandemic broke, as well as what happened in the aftermath.
So I feel we were lucky to be here. I actually think the UAE handled the pandemic better than a lot of countries, and I felt completely safe throughout. So the UAE took an approach of going quite hard and quite early into lockdown, earlier than a lot of countries, and the rules were very strict. For a while, we were working from home. We weren't allowed out. We weren't even for a while going to supermarkets and pharmacies. You were expected to get deliveries of any of your essential items or get a special permit to go out, to venture out to those shops. So most of us were safely cocooned at home and were hardly going out for anything. Then what the UAE did was admirable in that they worked quite quickly to try and work out what they needed to do next to get things back operating, which is, I think, was to start focus on the balance between the health and safety of the citizens of the UAE and the residents here, and avoiding too much economic slowdown, which was obviously some of which was inevitable. So they quite quickly moved into easing up the restrictions, but bit by bit. So they would trial something. Let's allow people out between these hours with masks and precautions, and we'll see what happens, see if the numbers spike. And then after a couple of weeks of that, they would say, now the timing restrictions are off, but we still need to wear masks. And so bit by bit, we saw the freedoms coming back. what that meant, when for those of us from New Zealand, originally from New Zealand, looking back, is at a time when New Zealand was still in strict lockdown and our borders were closed. We were not allowed to enter New Zealand, even as New Zealand citizens. It was extremely difficult to get a quarantine space. We were living a more normal life. So by about August or September of 2020, life in the UAE felt relatively normal. Yes, we were wearing masks, but all of us had understood distancing. The children were on the summer break, but facing the potential that they might be back in school in September, albeit with masks. I was traveling again by October 2020, so the borders in this part of the world were open, and I was able to take vacations and go places and stayed relatively safe. We got the vaccinations very early. We got straight onto the technology with the Sinopharm vaccine. And so the Sinopharm was going into the arms of people, I believe, by late 2020. And by the time we hit February 2021, AstraZeneca was available and Pfizer followed soon after. So we had a fairly heavily vaccinated population by the time we got to about May or June of 2021. And at that point, New Zealand, I don't believe, or was only just starting potentially its vaccination program. So Dubai, or the UAE government, did exactly what it needed to do to make sure it was among the first to capture the good vaccines, and make sure its residents were taken care of. So what that meant is businesses were shut down and had to pivot for a while into online solutions, but we opened up again pretty quickly. Obviously, there was a downturn. There was for every single country, but we didn't have thousands of deaths. We didn't have hundreds of thousands of cases, and businesses were able to gradually get back to business. So I think sort of applause all round for how it was handled here, and I'm pleased I weathered it here.
Right. Thanks for that. Now, that brings us to the end of part one of our chat with Vanessa, the chairman of the New Zealand Business Council UAE. When we return in part two, we will find out about the coveted UAE Golden Visa and also about how a membership with NZBC will help you start your business in the UAE on the right footing. Stay with us.